Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzales, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
All right, welcome back to the Babies in Business Podcast. It's Avram Gonzales here with a fabulous, different co-host today than you might be used to. I'm joined by Kris Britton. She's here with us on the podcast today. Kris, welcome.
Hi, Avram. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we get to connect. Kris and I have been connecting digitally for over a decade at this point. Have we ever had a conversation like this?
No, and that breaks my heart, actually. No, we haven't.
I think it's mostly just because I have such a big man crush on your stud husband, Ryan, who was on here a couple weeks ago. And he's just been getting a lot of my attention, but I don't want you to feel left out. We've been talking before the podcast here. Kris has got some great information for you here today around the push pull and like the slowing down to speed up of motherhood, entrepreneurship. You know, do your ambitions take a little bit of a backseat when you have a baby? How do you deal with that? We're going to get into all of it. I'm excited.
I just have to say, Ryan has the same equal man crush to you too.
I feel it. The bro love transcends the digital airwaves. So
Yes,
really quick here, Kris is a business and life coach with a deep understanding of the transformative power of embracing one's feminine essence. Kris is dedicated to helping women over 35 find balance, restore their relationships, and achieve success without burnout. Her journey of rediscovery and her commitment to empowering others make her a source of inspiration and guidance in the pursuit of a softer, more fulfilling life. Man, that just feels great saying it out loud because it's such a perfect match for all the reasons that I wanted to have you on today. I think a great place to start, if you're willing, is to tell us a little bit about what life was like right before you became a mom, and then some of the big changes that occurred with your purpose and your ambition as a result of having more in your life.
Yeah. So I was 39. We have this running joke. Ryan and I have been together for 23 years, married for 5, and we had our first daughter, Noah, when I was 39. And so at the time, looking back, I'm like, man, I thought that was like the right thing to do is you got to, crush your business first, work through your own stuff. This is the story I was telling myself because I had a deep fear. Honestly, I had a fear of raising a child. And so it took me when Ryan and I started doing the work on masculine and feminine, because, we run business together also. This brought this whole awakening to me of where I was feeling like I was too controlling, I was restrictive. And so as soon as I started opening up to that, we got engaged, got married, and then got pregnant right away. I felt like everything's in alignment. I am good. Business is flowing. My health is great. I was working out, Avram. I was working out. I was doing all the things, right? And then all of a sudden, we had Noah in 2020. The world flipped upside down, and I was like, who am I? Who am I? I'm not on back-to-back calls. I'm not promoting my coaching. I now have this little life that I'm providing for. And I'm like, what is this? And at the time, because there's all this other emotion and chaos going on, I was like, whoa. It felt like I kept saying, it felt like I was in this bubble that I couldn't pop out of. Like I wasn't the old me anymore, but I'm also not too sure who this new me is. And it was a wobble for a long while. For the first 2 years of Noah's life, I didn't really work. And so she's 3 now. So I just started doing more work in the last year.
Okay. I had the dog barking in the background. I was like, I don't want to cut you off. She's like, what is dog loves the recordings. Yeah, so everything changed. You didn't have the same day-to-day routine. Um, why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because you went from having a very full schedule with work, and then, you're making this decision. We made a similar decision in our home. We want to be home with our child, and we want to be there for all of the early moments, and that's probably going to happen till they're like 3 or 4, and maybe they go into preschool or something like that. So,
Yes.
how did you deal with the transition, especially once you started getting your footing, the pull between the 2 worlds? Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah. It's an interesting space. Society tells us, especially as women, this is my big work in the world is, because we have Noah home with us. That is that is our number one value as a family is that we are home together. I know who's raising her. It's me, Ryan, my mom, because my mom will watch her. So we're blessed to have someone to support us. But also society is telling us as women that you basically you need to suit up and you need to crush this world as a masculine man would, like conquering everything. And so I face this duality of my soul, my knowing is calling me to be in softness, in a slower life, raising her during these first couple of years of her life. And I beat myself up. I thought, like I would say to Ryan with tears, I'm losing my edge. People are going to forget about me. I'll never be, who I was before. And I had to look at, but why is that important? What is my role now? See, I just thought we were going to have a baby and my life was going to continue on the way it was. Is honestly what I thought. Like, fine, she'll be home with us. I didn't understand that there's need.
Yeah.
And she's needing her, from especially our daughter. She's very sensitive and she needs me there with her. So this identity shift caused me to actually give myself permission to lean back. And this is a really important thing I think most women get to remember is if your core essence is feminine and feeling like nourishment and softness. And, even when you read the bio, when you said the word softness, I was like, so that is so good. And that's what we're aching for, right? Deep down. And so these pressures of what society puts on us, I had to let go. And I was leaning back instead of leaning in. When I lean in, that means I want to control. I want to, I'm going to get this done come hell or high water. And I'm going to push, I'll push her needs aside. And this is my own personal stuff. I'm not saying this is going to be right for everybody, but my leaning back allowed me to surrender more. And it allowed me to slow down to what I actually needed that space and time to heal, to explore. And then all of a sudden, opportunities started coming in again when I was energetically ready and aligned, and we had someone here that could support with Noah. And all of these opportunities that felt right and fit in to my schedule started to come about. So I really learned that me forcing things and controlling, that's what I learned in my relationship with Ryan. Why we didn't get engaged sooner is because I'm so controlling. We had an issue with our commitment because of our dynamics. And now I got to learn it in motherhood and how I get to integrate business with it. It's beautiful. It's a puzzle. It's a big puzzle.
It is, and then you shift one thing, and then a lot of other stuff shifts, and you figure that whole piece out. I'd love for you to touch on the dynamic side of things because you have this whole entire part of your relationship that was, pre-marriage, pre-child, before becoming parents. And you said your dynamic was one way before, and now it's shifting and becoming something different. A lot of people say, they'll say, well, people don't change. They just, so don't try to change people. Well, yeah. But can dynamics in relationships change? And then what is required for that to actually occur?
Yeah, this is a great question. So Ryan and I, like I said, we've been together for so long. We also been growing business for so long together. And so I read all the books on how you do business. You compete and that was me. I was trying to compete with Ryan. So it was happening. And we jokingly say we were in a sword fight. It was like, I was like, we were constantly fighting for power. And that's not what a masculine identified person wants from their girlfriend, their wife. They don't want to be in competition. Rather, there gets to be a synergy. And I refer to it like a battery. And we're both equal. And when I say masculine and feminine, I don't want, a lot of women will get up all in arms like, well, I'm just as powerful. Yes. But we're actually wired differently. So we're equal in value. We just show up differently. And we also get to create and do business and life differently. And so when Brian and I started to understand that we didn't need to compete, I actually could work on my own essence and my own gifts, meaning working on my radiance, my happiness, my magnetism. These are all gifts of the feminine. And what actually gets to happen is it enhances the home. My tone shifted, my way I received income shifted because I was working on how I was being instead of how much I was doing. Yes, I still do, but first and foremost, it's how does it feel? How am I going to show up? We learn to communicate properly instead of me, delegating to him all the time, thinking that's what he wanted. We learn to communicate, and so if I trust that I'm in charge of my feelings and communication, I get to express to him, this is how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling neglected, if I'm feeling excited, if I'm feeling I need direction, and my feelings are valid. And so we're always constantly checking in with our needs and if they're being met. And so from there, like everything started to shift because we were fighting for power together. And then we hit our income goal. And this is, right when we met you, Avram, right? We hit this big income goal in our company. And all of a sudden, this is what we were striving for. And I looked at him and I said, I still don't feel free. We have the financial freedom. We have the time freedom. And little did I know, it was because I was I was trying to be something I wasn't. And the story always is, well, it's weak to be a woman. It's weak to be in your feminine. You get nothing done. You're just home doing nothing. And that's not true. It's just we get to do it differently. And so all of a sudden, my superpower ignited and then it shifted him as well. And then we were creating from a totally different space. And our relationship wasn't just about the mechanics of business anymore. There was actually polarity back there again, which only inspired and opened up everything else. Like I said, got engaged, got married, had a baby. And here we are again, learning other lessons. So yes, things do shift. They can shift.
They can shift. It actually sounds like to me, I know that you've had probably the realizations happening at the same time. Both of you had different things that were coming to you, but it really sounds to me like you sort of led that in your willingness to change things up in the way that you were operating, stepping
Mhm.
back. Did that give him space to show up different? Is that what happened?
Building a business while raising a family can be tough to juggle for any entrepreneur. Knowing where to focus and how to spend your limited time is critical to your success. That's why Babies in Business has produced and made available a fantastic audio resource for you. It's titled 5 Key Focus Areas to Build a Profitable Business Without Burnout. During this short training, Rachel and Avram peel back the curtain on their secrets to building a business that serves your family, your dreams, and beyond. To download your free copy of the 5 Key Focus Areas, go to babiesandbiz.com/download. Again, that's babiesandbiz.com/download to get your free copy. We hope you enjoy. Now, back to the podcast.
Yes, it's so funny. And we do talk about this in our programs and on podcasts and stuff. So yes, I was the one that shifted and changed. So I actually went and got support of a life coach way before Ryan did. Ryan, and when you met him, he was very focused and driven on, personal development and just anything to be successful. And I was going to see my life coach to actually heal my wounds. And I remember coming home and I was telling him about this over dinner. We were, living in a condo at the time and, barely making any money. And he said to me, why would you even dig this stuff up? Like, just get over it. And I felt so crushed that he wasn't supportive. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I remember going back to my life coach and saying, he doesn't approve. He doesn't get it. Like, what do I do? And she kept saying, you keep doing your work. You keep doing your work. And this is the thing, they say, um, happy wife, happy life. The mom's tone sets the mood of the home. So yes, even though the masculine energy is like the leader, the driver, the provider, the feminine essence is actually the one that pulls everybody together. It's the nurturer. So by me doing this work, the most divine thing happened because at the time I was studying, my own personal shadows that I was overcoming, and I was reading a certain book, and I had that book on the coffee table, and something spoke to him to pick up that book. And then everything took off for him. And now, the work Ryan does today. It's because of that book and that realization, that calling for him to pick it up. So even though I'm not like necessarily the one that leads the show around here, but my embodiment on what I'm doing for myself, my happiness plays a role, my mood plays the role, what I'm studying and embodying totally does. It totally opens up everything. And Ryan will be the first to tell you that when I'm in a crappy mood, the whole home's feeling.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think that you set the culture for the entire home, and you are nurturing that and bringing that together and making sure that it's at the forefront. And then sometimes it ends up taking a back seat when we push too hard, we drive, and then we sort of forget why we're doing what we're doing, what this is all for, what it means to us. I think that's just a really great example that you shared, because I know that there are a lot of couples that I think that do struggle with this dynamic because we have been so indoctrinated by the way of doing business in this reality. What would you say are some tips or some things that would be helpful tools for women who maybe feel like they are leading like a little bit or leaning in too heavily? Like, what are signs that they are headed for burnout? And then what can they do to lean back and release some of the control?
So this is a fascinating question because I've done a lot of study around this and worked with thousands of women around this. And this is something everyone can go and research themselves. So as soon as a feminine woman is put into a more forceful action, like let's say cold calling, or even I don't know, doing coaching calls, right? You're the one leading. So you're in the more of that masculine energy. What actually happens to us is it's proven our cortisol and testosterone spike, which is not the healthiest for us. So we're seeing a lot of women today, unfortunately, facing ovarian cancer, breast cancer, different illnesses and diseases in the body because the hormones and the frequency of our nature is off. And so when I started to understand that, and again, I'm not saying not to do anything. Of course, we have ambitions and passions and we want to run business, but I know today things are shifting. So more women are understanding, like, wait a second, I'm not feeling my best. Or they're syncing their cycle with their work. Like I know a lot of people that are tying that in together, and that's important because you as a man, your testosterone spikes every day. You're gonna wake up driven to go, right? Where for us, we're on a 28-day cycle. So we can't feel driven all the time. However, we've been programmed, we have to. So now we force ourselves and now we're depleted. And so, unfortunately, like I said, diseases, hormone imbalance, for me, I was losing my hair. It's like, what the heck is going on? I could take all the supplements in the world, nothing was changing. And so I had to actually go into the roots of it. So that looks like, there's so many gifts of the feminine, and the ones that I really want to touch on today that I think is going to help the audience is understanding that we have a gift of receptivity. Are you receiving life? Are you receiving nourishment? Are you taking time for yourself to actually stop and receive the sun on your face, the wind in your hair? It's all going to lead to receiving love and cherishing from your partner, and also income in your business and clients or whatever you're creating. Opportunities, it's endless when you're in the practice of being open to receive. And then also your magnetism. I talk a lot about radiance. If you're feeling dull and dim and kind of like blah, it's an indication that your radiance is off. And so if you're taking time and nourishing yourself to be in that radiance, your magnet is only going to enhance and attract that much more, right? And then also if you play with the gift of desire, most of us have been shamed for desiring more. And so when I work with women, I'm like, well, what is it that you desire? And they're like, ooh, I don't even know. And I'm like, wow, this is a red flag. If we don't know it, and trust me, I've been there. It's like you feel like, ooh, I can't possibly explore that. But when we actually cultivate that and go deeper, everything starts to ignite because we have the ability to birth things, right? We're birthing new. So our desires are for us. So these are really key, important pieces that I know if we just started implementing these through the day, you would start to see massive shifts, not only in your wellness and your health. One of the big things I tell my clients, and I get a lot of kickback on this, is at the end of your workday or at the end of the day that you're mothering, because that can be very forward moving, full energy, is hang up your lady balls. Go take 30 minutes for yourself. You deserve it. And most women tell me, I don't have time. Well, time is an intimacy issue. What they're really telling me is, I don't want to sit with these thoughts I haven't processed in months, weeks, years, days. And we have to. We have to reconnect to our feelings, not to saying we need to buy into them or take off in them, but let them actually process so our vessel stays clean and clear. That's how we receive and how we're magnetic.
Wow, you said something that just really stood out to me, and I couldn't hear anything right after you said it. Time, not having time is an intimacy issue. Can you expand on
Yeah.
that a little bit more? I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, but it made so much sense.
Yeah. So I actually learned this in sales.
Okay,
One
go
of the
for it.
biggest objections is time. And time is, from what I see across the board, is this intimacy issue. And it's really, they don't want. So if most women say, oh, sure, yeah, I'll take 30 minutes, but they bring their phone or they bring, I don't know, something that's going to distract them, a book or
Sure.
something. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, no, no. Take that 30 minutes to be with your body, yourself, with God, whoever you're connecting with, like just connect into it. And that's when they're like, they automatically think, well, it's not worth it. Why would I'm not going to, I have to utilize my time better. But I think what most people don't realize is being intimate and vulnerable, especially in where we are today, is very important. And as a woman, especially, to be intimate and vulnerable with how you're feeling and your needs and your emotions is extremely important to have them move through. So the intimacy issue is, like I said, most women aren't connected to their desire or their need. They'll never ask their partner for their needs to be met or vocalize it because they don't want to put stress on him. And so now this becomes resentment and burden and all of it. These are all the things that you could look at the end of your day, is just to process. Oh, that's interesting. Where did this come? That's you being intimate. And so whenever a time thing comes up, it's not true. You do have the time. You have the time to sign up for, to invest and work with somebody. But when the time, it's really saying, I don't really want to look at myself.
Man, that's incredible. I love that. Never heard that before. Do you add structure? Do you plan for some of the time that you're gonna carve out to be able to sit in your feminine flow, or is it more spontaneous, or is it a mix of both?
Yeah, I like to weave it through. So
Mm.
with business and calls and stuff, like, I mean, I would not do well if I didn't have some structure. If we look at the feminine, like the water in a river, we have to have the river banks, which is the structure, the masculine, the doing, right? But the way that that structure is going to hold us, once it's there, we're okay. Now we get to flow. We get to create in the moment. We get to step outside when we're feeling a little depleted and trust that we can receive the sun and not thinking like, oh, that's a waste of time. And so I need to have a plan, like my week and everything planned out. But then through that, I like to weave it in. I also, I don't work past 2 o'clock. Like these are some of my structures because then I can fully be present with my family and do the things that are meaningful for our home. And so that allows me that space. And that's how I work well. I know some women are like, I just want to flow with it. And I was that way. And then once I had Noah, I'm like, I got to shift things and I have to be adaptive and okay with that. That's okay. Structure kind of freaks me out at times, but it does make me feel like I have a foundation that I get to now play upon and I can just, flow and be creative without feeling like it's not going to go anywhere or, yeah, or I make excuses. So I do have some structure for sure.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of budgeting and something that Rachel Cruz, Dave Ramsey's daughter, talks about. She's like very, budgets are important. And I gotta say, I was really resistant to budgets at first because it felt so restrictive. There was so much structure to it. And she
Yes.
narrow talks about it in such a way that's like, well, that structure is actually what gives you the freedom to just utilize that time that you set aside for yourself to do these things, or or to just be with the energy and with the different things that come up. Very, very sort of Tao kind of perspective I'm getting from what you're sharing in the water and flowing with things. And it sounds like
Right.
you've really looked at just how your family flows through the week and just lining things up the best that you can. So that's
Yeah.
gonna be as smooth as possible when you got that water just, like, bouncing off of the riverbanks. But, eventually we just all make it back to the source, right?
Yep. That's right. Exactly. That's exactly it. And, if we actually look at the feminine essence itself, it does it wants spontaneity. It wants, and it wants to have, like, we want to have fun. We want to do these things, but also we know that if we want to have an end result in business or how we're running our family, that there has to be some of these things put in place that just are going to keep us anchored there.
Yeah. Well, Chris, this time together has really blown by. I would love to make sure that our audience has the opportunity to connect with you. I know that you might even have a freebie for folks. Could you tell us where people can connect with you and then what you got planned for everybody?
Yeah. So if you go, I left a link for you guys. So if you go to Coffee with Chris, but the special link for you is where you can download it's my feminine guide. And so if you really want to go deeper into how if your core essence is feminine, how you can implement this into your life if you're looking for that softer, more connected way of living. Because I have so much connection and expertise in business, it does pull a lot of that forward. So it takes the pressure off of you. So definitely download that and dive in. There's some really great questions there just to cultivate it and help you see how you can link it together.
Very good. We will include that in the show notes. If you go over to the website, you can find all that stuff there. Where can people connect with you on social media? Where's the best spot?
Oh, Instagram is great. If you send me a DM and you let me know what your takeaway was from this episode, I would love just to connect and hear. I get so many messages from women that are recognizing that, they are on the stages. They're heading to burnout and it's not what they're it's coming at a cost, right? They're creating business, but there's a cost to it. We don't want that. We want to make sure that you're feeling fulfilled and open the whole way through and receiving that success. So definitely find me on Insta.
Very good. That's Kris, Kris_Britton, Britton. Again, we'll put it in the show notes. We're going to wrap here with a few rapid fire questions. I think you'll do better than your husband did because he was pretty flustered. He felt like he needed a whole nother episode to answer some of these questions, but we're going to challenge that a little bit. All right.
Okay. I'm ready. I'm sweating.
Okay. Yeah. So first one I got for you, what's a topic that you're mildly obsessed with right now that has nothing to do with your purpose or your work?
Ooh, probably creating art. I actually want to start learning pottery.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I got a friend I should connect you with.
Cool.
Okay. What's something that recently made you smile?
So my our daughter, she doesn't we don't have cable, so she doesn't watch TV. But what she loves doing with me at night is watching Hallmark movies on YouTube. And last night she looked at me and she said, "Are you breaking up with me?" I said, "No." And like we play it out, we play the scenes out. I love it.
That is so cute and funny. Oh man. So this leads into my next one. What is your current nighttime routine look like? That could be right after Noah goes to bed. It could include right before up until you go to bed. What's that look like?
Well, in this stage of life, I take my 30 minutes. I have my bath time. I come down, I watch the Hallmark movie with her for about 30 minutes, and then we're like old people. We go to bed with her for like 9:30 or at 8:30, 9 o'clock. That's it.
That's parent life in the early days. That is all right. What is something that you're working on personally?
Mm. personally, I'm working on even surrendering deeper. Ryan and I are going through another beautiful transition on, what's next for him and for I when it comes to creation and business and how we can collaborate or how I can be of support for him, if it's just my energy. So I'm still going in, I'm still studying, reading and studying and implementing. I said to him the other day, I said, what where do you feel like I don't respect you enough? And he was like, wow, thank you for asking, because I can continue learning. And I love to hear from him that if his needs aren't being met, where can I get better? So that's something personally I am working on and going deeper in.
I think that's beautiful. And it's a testament to everything that you shared here today and those changing and shifting dynamics, starting with an awareness, leading with a great question, and giving the space to watch your partner unfold with that. Um, Kris, it's been a joy to have you on here today. Thank you so much for graciously giving us your time and sharing your wisdom. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. We certainly have
I
enjoyed
love
you.
it. Thank
Yes. And
you.
with that, we'll close it out. If you've got questions, reply to some of the stuff on the podcast. We got all these great shorts that are coming out from this episode. Make sure you connect with Kris. Go check out the show notes and check out her freebie. Get a download, and then DM her. Let her know what you got out of this. We do this show not for ourselves. It's really for you, and just sharing new ways that entrepreneurial parents can find their own way. Hopefully there's something you got here from our chat today. Find us at babiesandbiz.com. Also on social media at babiesandbizpod. Please subscribe. Leave us a review on Apple iTunes. If you haven't yet, that would really help us reach more entrepreneurial parents who are trying to find their own way. Thanks for joining us. That's it for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.